Well, hello Divi Nation, and welcome to a brand new Divi use case live stream where each week we show you how to add new design and functionality to your Divi websites. And in this live stream tutorial, we're going to be showing you how you can create a dynamic 3D mouse move animation effect in Divi. And don't forget to check the video description for more info on this use case, including a link to the blog post that goes along with it. Also, if you don't have Divi yet, I'm going to include a link to our Divi product page so you can check it out for yourself. So without wasting any time, let's go ahead and jump in and get started. All right, so welcome everyone. Glad that you are joining us for this live stream. And just to give you a little, well, actually, before I give you a heads up on what we're going to be doing, welcome everyone. I want you to make sure and let you know that you can let us know if you can hear me, number one, in the comments. If my stream's coming in loud and clear, give me a thumbs up if you can. Also, let us know where you're from. That's always good to know. And ask any questions that you want to ask along or as we go along so that we can get those answered for you. If I can't, hopefully someone else can on the channel. And excited to get started here. Let's see who we got joining us. Thamiz, hello, hi, good morning. It's morning over there wherever you are. Nice to have you. Fax Corporation, hello, hello. And Fax Corporation is off the Ivory Coast. Very good, West Africa. Wow, glad for you to be here. Divi bringing us all together like this. Always fun. I am over here in Houston, Texas area. I don't have a Houston Texan accent. At least I don't think I do. Jay, welcome from Florida. And Israel, welcome. Gave me my first thumbs up. That means you can hear me, hopefully. And Stephen from New York. And Joshua from Buenos Aires. Oh, I could use a good steak from there right about now. Bertrand from South France, welcome. Looks like we are slowly but surely gaining some more visitors here. So let's jump in and give you a little sneak peek. If you're just joining us, I do want to welcome you to this week's Divi use case live stream. And today we're showing you how you can create a nice dynamic 3D mouse move animation effect in Divi. That may sound like a mouthful, but a lot of cool features. This is a really cool animation effect. Let me give you the little preview here. So here's the final product. You can see my mouse is outside of the little hover container here. So when I move it into my space where I'm going to activate my animation, you can see now as I move my mouse cursor around the page or over the element, you can see that it's moving and has a nice little pop out 3D effect on those elements inside that card there. So a few things happening there. Pretty cool, right? And when I exit, of course, it'll snap back into place. And so this is a cool way to, feature some products. This little Divi bike example does not exist, although it would be a cool product to have, I guess. But this is the final product we're aiming to achieve here. There's a button down here. This is all, still clickable and everything if we want to click it. So that's where we're going. That's where we're building. The design in and of itself, if you're new to Divi, will be cool for you to learn. This is just some great, responsive design practices to build something like this, even if you don't want all the bells and whistles and hover effects that we'll be doing using some jQuery. But so excited to teach y'all some stuff, maybe learn from you guys as well. And let's get cracking. All right, so I'm gonna get started with a new page here using the Divi builder on the front end with a regular section. I'm gonna add a single column row to get started. So, and let's see, I don't think, let me check here. All right. Yeah, I'm not gonna add any modules just yet. We will add those modules, but I just kind of want to set up the section, the row, and the column first before we actually start building our elements within the column. So the section, I'm just going to open up my section settings here, and all I want to do there is give it a background. So that settings modal is a bit large. Let me go ahead and shrink that up, bring it to the right side. And let's give it a background color just because white is sometimes boring. Okay, there's my section background color. And do I want to do anything else to the section? Yeah, let's add some spacing. So I'm going to be using the VH length unit for my padding here. The VH is relative to the viewport height. So that means if I shrink my page or my browser vertically, it'll kind of adjust vertically. That kind of keeps everything nice and responsive vertically. And that's good to use whenever you're adding top and bottom, either margin or padding, stuff like that. Keeps everything in view as long as it can vertically. So there you go. So top and bottom padding, 7 VH for the top and bottom padding on the section. Save my section settings. That's it for that. Let's go ahead and do the row settings. So my row settings, or my row rather, is going to serve as my hover container. What is a hover container? Well, that is this area, going back to my finished product here. You can't really see it, but when I get to this point where the animation is engaged or activated, that little section around this, the actual white card is actually the column, but that area around it is the row. So I'm basically going to create that hover container, which is basically going to serve as the place where I hover. When I hover over my row, or anywhere within my row, is going to activate our animation effect. So that's why I'm calling my row the hover container. So I'm opening up my row settings, and let's go ahead and go to design and give our row a custom gutter width of 1. That's just going to take out any margins between columns. We're only going to have one column, but also it's going to take out any bottom margin between modules as well. Also, let's do a width of 100%. And so, but I do want to set some max width, and I'm going to do responsive settings here because I want to set my max width on desktop to be 70%. And let's do on tablet, I want my row to be 60%. And then on phone, let's just do 50%. Something like that. All right. That's good. And let's go back to my desktop view. Down to my spacing. Let's do a padding of 7 VH on the top and bottom as well for my row. And so basically, I want to make sure, just to give you an idea, I'm not going to keep it, but just temporarily, I'm just going to add a black background so you can see that's the row area. So I want to leave some space outside of my row so that I can have some, space for my cursor to move that won't engage the hover effect. So just keep that in mind whenever you're sizing your row or hover container. Take that out. All right, so let's go to my design tab, and I think I got everything I want. Oh, let's go to advanced tab. Now for my row settings, I do want to give my row a custom class, and we'll call it ET-hover-container. And under my custom CSS, I guess this is going to be helpful for kind of keeping my column aligned both vertically and horizontally, kind of keeping it centered using display flex. So I'm just going to paste this code in here. Let me just show you what that's all about. So there, it's just display flex, align item center, and justify content center. So that's just going to make sure my column stays vertically and horizontally centered within my row. Why am I doing this? Because I'm going to actually give a max width to my column, which is kind of like not the norm. So I want to make sure, since I am going to shrink down my column to a set width or a set max width, I want to make sure that it stays centered. So I'm just kind of thinking ahead there. And I'm going to save it out. So that's my row settings. Now I am ready for my column settings. Now before I do that, I'm going to open up my settings. And you can't see it because of my face down there in the bottom right, but I'm going to pull my settings menu over here, and then I'm going to open up my layers view right there. And I'm just going to keep that open. Because I like it open. Allows me to select stuff a lot easier. Okay. And let's open up everything. So right now we have a section, a row, and a column. So I want to open up my column settings for my one column I have. And let's go ahead and add a background color. And we're going to use white. And we're not seeing anything because I have no content within my column. So the white will show up. It will eventually. Especially when I add some padding, which is what I'm going to do next. Under the design tab, let's go ahead and add some column padding. I'm going to do the same 7 VH on the top and bottom. Now you can see my white column show up there. And on the left, again, we're going to be adding some content to this column. So I'm just going to make sure and have some proper spacing around it. Let's do 5% on the left and right of my column. And let's scroll down to my border options. And I'm going to give it some rounded corners. I'm going to do 30 pixels. And there you go. You can see how it's rounded there. Just a little tip for you. When you add rounded corners in CSS, it's, I think it's, what is it, border radius. In Divi, it's going to automatically kind of hide the visibility of the elements outside of the box. So keep that in mind, because we're going to have to make sure that the overflow is set to visible for this effect to work. If you're confused, you won't be later on, hopefully. So just bear with me. So rounded corners are going to be 30 pixels. And let's just add a box shadow to add some depth there, because we're going to make a 3D effect. It's always good to have a box shadow. Let's select that one. And let's go ahead and do 0 pixel vertical, box shadow vertical position, 0 pixels as well. The blur strength, let's kick it up to 80. Get a lot of blur strength there. And I'm going to tone down that shadow color. Let's do a toned down version. Give some opacity to the black color there, like 2%, something like that. There you go. All right. In the advanced tab, I do need to add a custom class to my row. And we're going to call this the Mousemove card. So class is going to be et-mousemove-card. And so there we go. And lastly, or not lastly, second to lastly, I'm going to add some custom CSS to my row, to my column in the main element. And all I'm doing there is setting a max width. So here's where I'm going to set my max width. And this is whatever, you want your card max width to be. I'm just going to keep it fairly small. I'm just going to do 600 pixels. And like I said before, so the visibility settings, I do want to make sure it, and not leave it as the default. I just want to make sure and set it to visible. Because when those hover effect elements, I'm just going to pause there, go back to our finished product. As you can see, those elements within, they're going to be popping out or popping, I don't know, up or toward you, toward the user in Z space. So when I rotate it, you can see, like, as I get really to the edge, you can see it's kind of overflowing my column there, or my card. And we don't want anything hidden. It won't work if you have the visibility hidden on the column. So make sure, set that to visible for both horizontal and vertical. And that about does it for our column. So now we're ready to create those card elements. And before we do that, I'm going to check over in the comments here. Say hello to all of my newcomers. Peter, hello from South Africa. Prasida. Hello. You gave me a wow. I'm assuming that's a good thing. Thank you for that. Stephanie from Ghana, welcome. Looks like I don't have any questions just yet. All right. All right, looking good. So let's continue. Right now, if you're just joining us, we're creating a dynamic 3D mouse move animation effect in Divi. And this is the final product we're looking to achieve here. And as you can see, it moves around nicely. Don't forget to check the video description for a link to the blog post that goes along with this video. And also the blog post does come with a download, JSON download, where you can import this design and check it out for yourself on your own website. Also, if you're new to Divi, I've included a link to our Divi product page. You can check that out as well. But let's continue. Our next step is we're creating our card elements within our column. All right, so here we go. First one. It's going to be this, what I'm calling the circle background with logo. That's this element here, that circle in the background there with the logo. I'm going to use, you can see that's basically the only thing that's not popping out on the page when you hover over it. But to create that, I'm going to use a text module. So create a new text module. Don't need any content in it because I'm only going to use it for its background. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to add a gradient background. So I'm going to scroll down here to my background gradient. Let's go ahead and add that. My left color, I'm going to paste it in here. It's kind of like a navy bluish color. And also I'm going to use on the right color here, a reddish red color. And then I'm going to add a background image. And that is actually going to be a logo, a Divi logo. So let me search for that. Maybe it'll pop up. Where's my white logo? I want that white logo. That's it, but that's not it. It's not the one I want. Let's see. It's around here somewhere, and it's close. I know it is. There it is. All right. Let's paste or upload that image. And I want to make sure the background image is the actual size. It's actually only I think it's a 60 by 60 pixel logo there. So I'm just going to use the actual size. And doesn't look great yet, but we're going to add some sizing to that to make it circular. To do that, I'm going to go to my design tab, go to sizing, and for my width, I'm going to open up the responsive tabs there. For desktop, I want to make it 150 pixels. And I actually want to do the same for the, not max width. Take that out. For the height as well. So for height, I want to make sure they are the same. So I'm going to add 150 to my height on desktop. And for, let's see, give me some more room. And so, so for tablet though, I'm going to shrink it up a bit. I'm going to do, let's go back. I jumped ahead. Let's do 160. Sorry, 160 for desktop. 160 pixels for height and width. But for tablet, I'm going to do 150, which is slightly smaller for my height and width. And then for phone, I'm going to bring it down to 80 pixels height and width. And as you can see, that does make it a perfect square, which is what I want because I need it to be a perfect square to make it a circle, because the next step is to add the rounded corners. And to make it a circle, simply set it to 50% all the way around. There's your circle. Easy circle design there. For this particular element here, I do want to give it an absolute position. So under my advanced tab, go to position. I'm going to set it to absolute and go ahead and give the location top center. The reason why I'm doing that is because I want it to sit behind. Here's my final design. You see how I want it to sit behind my other elements? Just kind of stay in place there. Easy way to kind of overlap other elements on top of it if I give it an absolute position. And I'm going to give it a vertical offset here of 15%. That's just going to bring it down a notch from the very top. All right. That takes care of my background circle logo. Next, we're going to create our image, our bike image. So I'm going to add a new image module underneath that text module there. You can see it's already overlapping it, which is what we want. I'm going to go ahead and grab that bike image. And, you know, whatever image you do add doesn't have to be a bike, but I would suggest that you use a PNG image with the transparent background so that you can see it. It makes the 3D effect a whole lot better. Let's go ahead and jump over to the design tab, change my alignment to center, and let's do the sizing. Let's make the width 90%. Not 90 pixels, 90%. Okay. And for the spacing, we're going to give it a bottom margin. Again, using the VH length unit. Let's do 4 VH bottom margin. That's going to create the space I need for my next element that I'm going to add right underneath it. And then lastly, let's add that CSS class that we need. Just going to call it et-card-image. That's our CSS class. And save it out. And let's add another text module because our next thing we're going to be adding is our card heading. All right. That's this one over here. That's this text, the Divi bike text. So to do that, let's go ahead and add another text module. And let's go ahead and paste in this HTML here. This is actually the an H2 basically with a span inside of it. Let me make sure you can see that. It's not allowing me to zoom. Okay, no worries. It's in the blog post. There we go. There's my zoom. So there's my span. That's adding the span tag that's surrounding the Divi text there that adds that color. That's how you add that, you know, secondary color inside of that H2 there for that red Divi. And let's go ahead and go to the design tab and update. Since it is an H2 heading, let's go to my heading text, hit my H2 tab. Let's do the Babus new font. And let's go ahead and change my alignment to center. And let's go ahead and use, let's see if I have my recent, yeah, let's do that same blue, purplish, bluish, whatever you call it, color that we used for our gradient background. And let's do our text size. So for our text size on desktop, let's do 75 pixels. On tablet, we'll bring it down to 60, and for mobile, we'll bring it down to 45. All right. Let's do for our bottom margin. We can add some letter spacing if you want. I just added 0.5 em to that. Just give it a little spacing between the letters. But for my spacing, I do want to add that same bottom margin of 4 VH underneath it. All right, and I think that's good for our heading, except our last step, we want to go to Advanced tab, add our class. So we're going to call it et-card-heading. These classes are important because we're going to use them in our Java query, JavaScript or jQuery later on. All right, next we're going to add another text module. And this is going to be our info text underneath it. You know, you could add, you know, the text in this same text module as well, like body text, but keeping the elements separate, like if I go back to my original design, as you can see, if you keep them separate, you can add, you know, different hover effects. They pop out different, you can make them pop out separately, in other words, by making them separate elements. So that's why we did it that way. All right, so let's just add in some mock text here. All right, paragraph text there. And let's go to my design tab and go to my text settings or text styles. And let's do a keep the default font, that's fine. We're gonna make it semi-bold though. And text size, let's just quickly let's do 18 pixels on desktop, and on tablet, let's bring it down to 16. Bring up the line height to 1.8 ems, and then do our text alignment to center. And for spacing, let's add that same bottom margin of 4 VH. And for our custom class, let's add ET card info. ET-card info for our class. Save it out. And our final element we're going to add is our button. So let's do that. Let's go ahead and add a button module. All right. And we're going to change the button text to something like make an offer. Jump over to my design tab. And let's do some custom styles for the button. Use custom styles for button? Yes. And let's do, for my button text size for desktop, let's do 25 pixels. For tablet, let's do 20. For 16, let's do, for phone, let's do 16. Okay. All right, for my button text color, let's just do white. And for my background color, I'm going to do that same bluish gray, bluish purple color there. And for my button border width, I'm going to take it out. Let's do 0 for my button border width. And let's do some letter spacing. We're going to do 0.1 em for my letter spacing there. Let's use the button font. Let's do Babus New, the same font we used as for our main heading there. And let's add some padding to our button. So we're going to do a different one for desktop and tablet. So for our padding on desktop, let's do 0.5 em on the top and bottom. We'll link those together. And then 3 em on the left and right. On tablet, let's go ahead and shrink the left and right down to 2 em. All right. Looks like my button's not aligned, so I need to go back to my alignment and make sure my button is centered. Forgot that step. And then under our advanced tab, let's give it a custom class. Let's go back to desktop view here. Under my advanced tab, let's give it a custom class of, well, actually, you know, and I originally did give in the actual blog post tutorial, I did give it a custom class and I used it to target in jQuery. But actually, since the actual button design is attributed or added to the A tag, or the A or the link element that makes the button, not the button wrapper, we're going to target it a different way. So I'm not going to add the button class here. We're going to actually target the button another way. So I'm going to skip that step. So if you're looking at the blog post tutorial and you're saying, well, why didn't we add the button class? I just told you. Okay. All right. So save it out. And here's our results so far, looking good. Again, you know, you can just leave it like that. Let's check it out on a live page here. So there's my design. Let's just go ahead and inspect it to see what it looks like on different browsers. So there's my iPad view there. What does it look like on a phone? There you go. So maybe I need to add more width to my column, make it a little bit wider on phone, but that's what it looks like on phone. All right, and you can see it gets how it responds nicely. And let's see how it responds when you shrink. You can see how it kind of shrinks the margins in between, kind of gets smaller as you adjust the browser height. That's that VH length unit at work that we used. All right. Let's go back to our build here. And this final step, if you're just joining us and you're lost, today we are creating a dynamic 3D mouse move animation effect in Divi. And don't forget to check out the video description for a link to the blog post that goes along with this tutorial. And this is our weekly Divi use case live stream. We do these every week, Tuesday, 3 p.m. Eastern. We are on our final step, which is to add the code necessary to make the magic happen and create this 3D mouse over effect, animation effect, I should say. All right, to do that, we are going to use a code module. So I can just add it underneath my button here. Add my code module. And I'll make it quite large so we can see our code. And of course, this code can be copied and pasted or used by referencing. All of this code is in the blog post tutorial. I should say it that way. So I'm just going to copy in the CSS, but first I'm going to add a style tag because we're adding the style or the CSS in an HTML document. So we're going to use that style tag, make sure our CSS is wrapped inside of it, and then paste it there. So there's our CSS. And we'll circle back if we have time and kind of go over what that is doing and why that's important to have in there. But after the CSS, we're going to add the jQuery. So I'm going to add a script tag. And then inside that script tag, we're going to paste in our jQuery code. There you go. All right, so just so I can make sure this works before we go back over it, I'm going to save that out. Click Save, and let's go ahead and open it up in a new tab. or check it out on the live page. Once it loads and I hover over it, there's my effect. So you can see that it is working nicely. All right, so let's go back. It is kind of jittery for some reason. It's not usually like that. That's better. Let's go back and look at that code so we can see what's going on there. So I'm going to go back and open up my code module. And let me zoom in for you guys so we can see the code together. Close out my menu here. I don't need that. And let's see. Can I zoom? Are you wanting me to zoom? No, you're not. Okay. I don't like that. Let's do, nope. I'll get it right. Here we go, right in the center. Okay, that works enough. Maybe not. All right, I'm having some zoom issues here. Get out. Escape. Escape. I mean, I've never had this problem before. I'm like stuck in Zoom. I need some tips. All right. Here's what I'll do. I'm stuck in Zoom. I'm just going to refresh the page. But it's still zoomed in for some reason. Let's go out. Okay. Wow. Okay. Let's see. Duplicate tab. Still in Zoom. I would like to not be. How much? All right. Let's see. Help me out, guys. Cycle tabs. Yes. I don't know what that means. Okay. Am I in Zoom? Okay. I'm just gonna brief pause while I figure this out. I'm never zooming like this again. Okay. I just need it. I'm gonna pull it back up. Okay. All right, guys, we're back. Sorry about that. Forget the zoom. We'll do the zoom later. But let's see, I can zoom it this way. Might help. So the first thing we have is the CSS. So this is important. So the ET hover container right here is actually the column. We needed to add perspective to that. So the perspective CSS property, basically that controls the perspective of any 3D elements that you're adding, 3D child elements, which we will have. The card being one of them that will move around, and also all of the stuff inside, all the elements inside the column. So the actual next one, the Mousemove card, that's actually our column, the class we added to our column. Well, we needed to add a transform style preserve 3D. That makes sure that those 3D elements are preserved in 3D space and look 3D whenever you add those animation effects. All right, so that's important. This is just setting the transition duration and style for those elements. So if you want to speed it up or slow it down, you can change this value here. But this is where the key to creating the pop-out 3D effect, and that is the transform styles that we have for the card elements. So you can see that each of these classes, like for the image, the heading, the info, and the actual button, which we're targeting differently. This is our button wrapper here. They all have this extra class called Transform 3D. And this is the class that we're going to toggle on and off whenever we hover over the row. So whenever we hover over the row, we're going to transform each of those elements with this translate Z function here. And this controls how much you want that element to pop out in 3D in Z space or in the Z axis or whatever. So the image is going to translate out 150 pixels. The heading is going to translate out the same 150 pixels. The card info is going to translate or to pop out about 50 pixels. And then the button's going to pop out 150 pixels. There's also a rotation I've added to the image and also the button. And so just to show you what that looks like, go back to my original. So you can see, like, as I hover over the row, the bike image is popping out, but it's also rotating, right? You see the rotation. And also the button actually pops out and has a rotation as well. Which makes it more visible kind of when you're down here, which I like. So when I hover over the row, those transform translate Z styles are added to each one of those elements, making them pop out. And because we have the perspective and the 3D preserve enabled, we'll show all those in 3D very nicely. Okay. Hope that makes sense. Thanks, Zen. Says it's okay. We can still read the text zoomed out. Good, because I'm not going to zoom out in anymore. Let's go ahead and go back to our build here. For the jQuery code, the first part of it basically the setting the variables for all the elements. So I'm targeting all the classes and assigning them a jQuery object here, variable. And I'm going to use that throughout the code. So one for my container, one for my card, one for my image, the card being the column there, one for my image, one for my heading, one for my info, and then one for the button wrapper. So once those variables are declared, I'm going to use them throughout these next few snippets here. This next block here is how you create the moving animation event. And that would be the way the column moves around, right? When the mouse move animation. And to do that, you need to set, or you're going to use some, basically you're going to use the Mousemove event. And you're going to, when hovering over the row, whenever the mouse is moving over the row, this function is going to execute, and it's going to basically dynamically determine the placement of your cursor on the X and Y axis, and that is what this is doing. So you're going to let the X axis, I can't say that word, X axis equal this calculation, which is basically, determining the value of the client X, which is the what you use to determine where the cursor is on the x-axis. But you're kind of using some calculation here, and I'm not going to go into the details there. But you're going to make it to where it's not it's more smooth, and it kind of does that cool effect here. So as you can see, when I go to the right, it actually turns to the left. And when I go to the left, it actually turns to the right. And that's because for each of these variables, for the X and Y axis, that value is actually being used because we're adding that value here dynamically in the transform rotate CSS property on the column. So the column is going to be rotating dynamically because that value, that rotation value, is going to change dynamically as we move it around. I really butchered that explanation. I'm sorry. Hopefully the blog post will help explain that a bit better. But essentially that's what that's doing. What's next? The hover, so the hover effect. So this next block is going to add the CSS class called Transform 3D whenever you hover over the row. So that again corresponds to my CSS up here, right here, which has that CSS class added to each one, and that initiates the translate Z pop-outs that we want on hover. And then lastly, we're going to pop back that card, that column, and everything, pop it all back into place by using this MouseLeave event here. So whenever my mouse leaves the row, it's going to add the CSS to the column, the rotation Y and Z and X back to 0 degrees. So when it was changing dynamically, once it's outside of the row, here's my final. See, it's changing, that rotation is changing dynamically, but once we get outside the row, it's going to set back to 0 and pop back into place. So that's what that does. Okay. All right, so that about does it. Let's see if we have any questions. Everybody's been pretty quiet, no questions. Just people laughing at me because I don't know how to zoom. Thanks, Monkey Z78. But all in all, it's a really cool effect. I know I'm, getting close on ending or running out of time here, so I want to wrap it up. But saving it out here, let's go ahead and make sure it works. Final design. Here we go. So refresh the page. Here's our final design. It looks like my hover effects are working, and you have a nice 3D mouse move animation effect in Divi. All right, guys, that's all I have for you this week. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Please be sure to give us a thumbs up if you like the video, of course. And don't forget to subscribe to our blog newsletter, our YouTube channel, and like us on Facebook. And don't forget to click to get those notifications so that we can let you know every single time we have something new for you. And we will be back here next Tuesday with another Divi use case live stream at 3 p.m. Eastern. So check that out. And thanks again, you guys. I'll see you in our next video.